Recent internet embarrassment, Dillon Danis has been banging the drum that he wants to come over to the UFC, and I do mean internet embarrassment because look how much trash he was talking against Logan Paul, all the way to actually go and have the boxing match, and the only punch that he threw in the boxing match wasn't even against Logan, it was against Logan's security. How do you think Dillon coming to the UFC is actually going to go? It seems like a bit of, we don't really want him, we don't really need him, right? I mean, we as in you and I, the UFC fans, why do we even want him in here, and what would it look like if it did get here? Look, Dillon Danis wants to be in the UFC, so let's play out how it would actually look, okay? After that absolutely embarrassing performance at the pay-per-view of KSI versus Fury, Dillon used his keyboard warrior skills to start calling out Dana White non-stop, as loudly and as often as he possibly could. The first thing that comes to my mind when we talk about Dillon Danis is that he definitely brings eyes to the sport. But does he bring any actual fans over? Like, honestly, who really is a fan of Dillon Danis? I know there are people out there that found his trolling over Logan Paul's fiance just endlessly funny, but they seem to be the sort of guys that are like internet anarchists, the jokers, the people who just want to watch chaos play out along the internet. They found Dillon Danis as interesting as they found, oh, I don't know, the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. That's the level of fan that we're talking about. It feels like if you're a true fight fan, you're not that big of a fan of Dillon Danis. So how many fans is he actually bringing over? Like, how many deep Bellator fans love Danis that much? How many do you think are going to be coming over? What is the actual number? 1,000 viewers maybe? Less? Or is it that Dillon Danis' star power is similar? And I mean similar, not the same, but similar. Is it similar to what Jake Paul's was with his early boxing career? That sort of star power. The star power of a loudmouth kid that people just want to see get slept and knocked out cold. Like, do you remember Jake's early fights against Woodley before he had the respect of the fighting community? People stole that pay-per-view just so they could see him get knocked out. Is that Dillon Danis now? Is Dillon Danis now Jake Paul 5 years ago? It's so ironic that Dillon Danis' biggest fan might also be the MMA world's biggest star, Conor McGregor. Someone who publicly humiliated themselves, saying that Dillon Danis' performance against Logan Paul was impressive. Like, that was embarrassing for McGregor to come out and say that and back Dillon Danis so religiously, but he did it. Dillon was his friend and he came out and he said that Dillon put on a good performance, even though no one who watches that could possibly think that that was a good performance. I can't believe I'm saying this, but get yourself a friend like Conor McGregor. That guy will back you no matter what. If you're mates with Conor McGregor, you're mates for life. And it sort of brings me to how we could get Dillon Danis into the UFC. Look, Conor McGregor's and the UFC's love for each other is legendary at this point. They will change the lineup of The Ultimate Fighter, the sport's biggest TV show. Well, Dana's favorite TV show. They will change the lineup of that show just to please Conor McGregor. They will publicly and loudly scrap with USADA just for Conor McGregor. They created an entire pay-per-view out of nothing. McGregor versus Cerrone. That wasn't even on the calendar. And they put that together last minute just for Conor McGregor. If Conor McGregor says Dillon Danis is going into the UFC, Dana White says okay. So if Dillon does come over to our side, to the UFC, how are we going to handle him? How would the UFC handle him? I think it's the same strategy that they used with CM Punk or Greg Hardy. These names that have lots of attention, but we need to slowly slot them some UFC fights and get them some wins, get some wins under their belt to just slowly build them up. Use the CM Punk, Greg Hardy strategy. So let us pretend that Conor McGregor has twisted Dana White's arm and gotten Dillon Danis into the UFC. Obviously, you start him off with the classic 3-fight industry deal.
Shock the world again. Harold, you don't know why I keep saying the 3-fight deal? You don't understand that I'm attempting to tell your audience.
Let's find him 3 winnable fights with different and rising levels of excitement. Who would you start him off at welterweight? To me, I'd start him off with Court McGee, right? Bit of a up and down sort of a career in the UFC. He's not too great on the ground, not too great on the feet. 2 wins, 3 losses in his last 5 fights. He's 38 years old. Why else is a fighter like Court McGee even in the UFC if not to fight new up-and-comers, new names in the UFC? It makes for a really nice co-main event on an Apex card. It makes a really nice feature fight on a crowded fight night card. It just slots in well, and it's a very winnable fight for Dillon Danis. Then, after Dillon Danis smokes Court McGee, we can move on to someone like Josh Quinlan. 1-1 in the UFC, 30 years old, a much more real matchup for Dillon Danis. It's a much more dangerous fight. Both of them could win it. And then hopefully Dillon wins that fight. Now you've got 2 wins in the UFC under his belt. His name, the internet already knows Dillon Danis' name. His name's building. He's been shit talking. People in the media have been grabbing the headlines of the shit talking that he's been doing. It's time for the standard. This is the move you make. It's the standard. Put him as an opener on a pay-per-view spot. Everyone knows he doesn't deserve to be there. It's too early. Everyone on the internet is whinging about it, but the UFC goes ahead and does it anyway because that's where they like to put their prospects that they want eyes on. You put him as the opener of a pay-per-view and you put him against Abu Bakr Nurmagomedov. 33, 2-2 in the UFC, but hear me on this one. There are 2 reasons why you make that the fight for Dillon Danis' 3rd fight on his 3 contract deal. Abu has got the Dagestani background. So we're bringing back some of that trolling from Team McGregor versus Team Dagestan. That is always good for the money line. That's always good for business. 2, he's from Team Dagestan. He's on the Dagestani background. So that means there's going to be some sloppy stand-up for Dillon to be able to stand and dance with. Dillon Danis' hands are not good after that boxing match. Some would say non-existent. But that means there's some sloppy stand-up that can happen there. And also because he's from Team Dagestan, Dillon Danis is a BJJ specialist, it's going to go to the ground. There'll be a chance for Dillon to play with him on the ground, have that ground game there on a pay-per-view to really show off Dillon's skills, if he has any fighting skills, not just keyboard skills. And there you go, a challenging but doable 3-fight run for the UFC's newest and loudest mouth, Dillon Danis. Guys, let me know what you think about that little scenario right there down in the comments. If you've been enjoying these videos, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button, and I will see you all in the next one.